Hey, welcome. Today, we're going to take a journey to a place you've been on top of your whole life, but have probably never seen. We're talking about the huge, hidden world of fresh water flowing right under our feet. We're talking about groundwater.
So let me ask you something. When you turn on the faucet to get a glass of water, have you ever really stopped to think about where that water is coming from? You might think it's a lake or a river nearby, but for a huge number of us, the real answer is deep, deep underground. Okay, so let's dive in. This image here gives us our first peek into that world beneath the surface. And you can see it's not just some big, simple underground lake. No way. It's this incredibly complex system of different soil and rock layers, all holding on to this precious water.
To really get our heads around this, let's follow a single drop of rain. Picture it. It hits the ground. But it doesn't just disappear. It starts this really slow, really long journey, seeping its way down through the earth. Now, this is where it gets really interesting. As our little water droplet makes its way down, it passes through two totally different zones. First up is the zone of aeration. Think of this as the damp zone. The spaces between all the dirt and rock particles still have plenty of air in them. But as it sinks deeper, it finally hits the zone of saturation. And that's exactly what it sounds like. Every single crack, every pore is completely and totally full of water. And this diagram shows that dividing line perfectly. It has a name you've probably heard before, the water table. You can see it right there. It's that critical boundary where the ground goes from just being kind of damp to being completely waterlogged. That line is basically the surface of the entire groundwater system. All right, so our water droplet made it past the water table. It's now in the saturated zone. So what happens next? Well, it finds itself moving through all sorts of different geological formations. And it turns out some of these layers are way, way better at holding and moving water than others. Geologists actually have four main categories for these layers. You've got an aquifers, like solid granite. Water can't get in, can't get through. Then there's an aquiclude, like a really dense clay. It can soak up water, but it holds onto it for dear life. It won't let it pass. An aquitard is kind of leaky, it holds water, but only lets it through super slowly. But the real hero of our story, the one we care about, is the aquifer. It holds a lot of water, and it lets it flow easily. This is where we get our water from. Now, not all aquifers are created equal. The most basic kind is called an unconfined aquifer. The best way to think about it is like a big sponge sitting in an open tub. Its top surface is the water table, which means any rain that soaks into the ground can fill it right back up. And this slide just makes it crystal clear. If you were to drill a well into one of these unconfined aquifers, the water level inside your well would sit at the exact same height as the water table around it. It's simple. It's direct. But things get a lot more interesting when we talk about a confined aquifer. Now, this is a layer of water-bearing rock that's trapped, it's confined, between two layers that water can't easily pass through. So imagine our water-filled sponge again, but this time it's sandwiched between two sheets of plastic. It's sealed off, and that creates a really special condition, pressure, a whole lot of pressure. And you can literally see that water sandwich right here in this diagram. You've got that unconfined aquifer up near the surface, but look deeper down. There's our confined aquifer, just squeezed between those impermeable layers above and below it. So this water isn't just sitting there doing nothing. It's always on the move, flowing through these underground layers. I mean, we're talking slow, like snail's pace slow sometimes, but it is moving. So what's actually making it move? Well, the key property here is a word called permeability. Basically, it's a measure of how easily water can flow through something. It's not about how much water it can hold, but about how connected all the little pores and cracks are. It's all about the pathways. And wow, this slide, this just says it all. This is permeability in action, folks. To drain the same amount of water, it would take gravel about 2 minutes, sand, 2 hours, silt, 200 days, and clay, get this, 200 years. I mean, that difference is just mind-blowing, isn't it? So, why the massive difference? Well, the reason is actually beautifully simple. As you can see here, bigger particles, like in gravel, create these big, wide-open, connected pathways for water to just cruise right through. But the tiny, super tightly packed particles in clay, that's like an impossible obstacle course for a water molecule. Okay, so permeability tells us how easily water can move. But what's the actual force that's pushing it along? Well, that comes down to something called hydraulic head.
Now, don't worry about the math. The concept is really simple. It's just a mix of the water's elevation and its pressure. And just like a ball always rolls downhill, water always flows from a point of high energy to a point of low energy. Simple as that. And this is where it all comes together. Remember that pressure we talked about in the confined aquifer? Well, if that hydraulic head, that energy level is high enough, it can literally push water up a well pipe all by itself, right up above the ground. No pump needed. That amazing sight is called a flowing artesian well, and it's a direct result of all that incredible underground pressure. All right, so we've journeyed deep into the ground, we've seen these incredible natural reservoirs, and we get how the water moves. So what's the last step in the journey? How do we actually get that water to our homes, to our taps? And the answer, of course, is the good old water well. It's basically just a structure we build to give us a direct line into those amazing, productive aquifer layers. It lets us bring that naturally filtered, clean groundwater from deep beneath our feet right up to the surface where we can use it. But here's the catch, and this is maybe the most important point of this entire conversation. Tapping into this incredible resource comes with a huge responsibility. The absolute key, as this slide says, is balance. We simply cannot take water out of the ground faster than nature puts it back in. It's really just like a bank account. You can't just keep making withdrawals forever without making any deposits. Eventually, it's gonna run dry. And this slide just shows that whole cycle perfectly. On one side, you have rain and snowmelt. That's the natural recharge, the deposits going into our groundwater bank account. On the other side, you have our pumping wells, and those are the withdrawals. The problem starts when those withdrawals are consistently bigger than the deposits, year after year. That's when the resource starts to shrink, and we can get into some serious trouble. This brings us to a really critical concept in managing our water, the aquifer safe yield. As the definition says, this isn't some random guess. It's a carefully calculated amount. It's the volume of water we know we can pull out of an aquifer over the long haul without doing permanent damage. If you go over that safe yield, the water table drops, wells can run dry, and in some places, the actual ground can start to sink. Staying within this limit, that is everything when it comes to sustainability. So there you have it. That hidden world beneath our feet isn't just some geological quirk. It's a complex, living, breathing system and an absolutely vital lifeline for all of us. Which really just leaves us with one final big question. Now that we know what's down there and we know how important it is, are we doing enough to protect it for the future?